What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Babbles Nonsense podcast. And today, Minu is joining us back, and her podcast is Transcend into Wellness. And on today's episode, we are going to do something a little different because we're talking about something that we feel a lot of people are quietly struggling with right now. And that is the shadow side of self-awareness and healing culture. Because somewhere along the way, a lot of us became incredibly aware of ourselves. We became aware of our triggers, attachment styles, childhood wounds, nervous systems, trauma responses, and patterns. And to be clear, being self-aware is very important. Therapy is important and healing is important. But we also think that there's a conversation that doesn't get talked about enough, which is, can we become so self-aware that we stop actually living? Can healing become another form of perfectionism? Can self-awareness become identity attachment? Can constantly analyzing ourselves create anxiety instead of peace? Because we think a lot of people right now are intellectually aware of everything, but becoming emotionally exhausted. We can explain our wounds beautifully, we can identify where our behaviors come from, and we can use all the therapy language in the world. But some of us are still deeply anxious, deeply dysregulated, deeply disconnected, and honestly, we're just stuck. And social media has amplified this even more. Now everyone is diagnosing themselves, labeling themselves, branding themselves around trauma, and turning every emotional experience, well, into content. So today, we wanted to have a real conversation about the difference between awareness and embodiment, between understanding yourself and actually healing, between constantly dissecting yourself and finally allowing yourself to live. Because maybe healing is not supposed to feel like a lifelong performance review of your personality. Maybe real healing is actually simpler than we think. And of course, we got in tangents on some of these and we started babbling around, and we really thought this topic was important and we wanted to spend time on it. So we're turning this into a part 1 and a part 2. So we're going to get into part 1 right now. Stay tuned. All right, guys, we are back. Minu is here. I know y'all have been waiting for that for so long. It has been so long since we've collaborated. And honestly, like, the content on my end has hit a null without you. So thank you, Minu, for coming back.
And you know what's interesting is even it's been the same for me too, because I think after 120 episodes, you kind of want to say the same things in different ways, and then you want something fresh, you want a new perspective, you want somebody else's knowledge and view on things, even though it's the same thing. So thank you, because I was also not releasing episodes in the last few weeks because I think I want to like focus more on quality versus quantity. Anyway, that's the whole point,
Yeah.
right? So,
When I just
um,
love like doing podcasts with other people. I've always
mhm.
enjoyed interviewing over solo episodes. Not that I don't enjoy solo episodes, but just having
Yeah,
that other perspective to bounce things off of. You're like,
yep,
oh, that just triggered this thought, and that just triggered
yep.
this thought. And then me and you do that very well with each other. So
Yeah,
it's always a pleasure to do podcasts with you.
thank you. Likewise.
But of course, this episode was your
Hmm.
amazing topic that just hits home with everything right now, and how, I guess, trends of buzzwords and social media and things, how we all define things like self-awareness becoming your identity, and
Hmm.
being hyper self-aware of everything. So
Hmm.
I just want to kind of dive on into it and kind of get your opinion, because I have a lot of questions.
Oh yeah, girl.
How would
We're
you
we're really
define
gonna we're really gonna get into
and
it.
how would you define like this episode? Like, I don't even know how to, like, me and you do a lot of like emotions, and we do a lot of life coaching, and we do
Hmm.
a lot of these things, but more so this episode is how we're getting too involved in diagnosing
Exactly.
and life coaching and things like that.
Exactly. It's almost, I would call it the dark side of over fixating, or the dark side of self-awareness, because I think self-awareness is such a great tool, but with social media and books and podcast, everything is now a diagnosis.
It is. And coming from the medical side of things, like, that's what we want to do, right? What's wrong with me? Tell me what's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Give me that ICD-10 code. Give me that
Mm-hmm.
diagnosis. And it's like,
Right.
well, maybe there's not one there.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And I'm also like catching my clients when they automatically start diagnosing themselves and they're like, oh, maybe I have tendencies of BPD. And I'm just like, hold on, don't go into ChatGPT and start typing it all in. And it's also, if you think about it, it's a just a way, another way of getting control or security. And I feel like fundamentally that's why we've kind of gotten into the rabbit hole of doing that.
Agreed. Agreed. Because we want to know like why we're doing something because we are in this huge self-awareness generation, which is great to a extent. Like,
Mm-hmm.
like it's like, okay, it's wonderful that you want to identify what's going on in yourself where you can maybe work on yourself, but then
Mm-hmm.
everything in extremes, like we tend to do everything in extremes.
I
No matter
agree.
if it's like, okay, now we're like, for example, the whole non-alcohol movement right now. Great. It's
Mm.
healthy. That's great. Alcohol is really not the
Mm-hmm.
most healthy thing for you, but it's almost like everything in this generation is like, let's take it to the max. Let's take it to the
Mm.
extreme. Like, oh, we're not going to drink alcohol. We're going to be self-aware. We're going to go to therapy every other day. We're going to do all these
Mm-hmm.
things, which is again, it's kind of hard to like put a negative connotation on that when it's
Mm-hmm.
supposed to be such a positive thing.
Right. I completely agree. I feel like the pendulum has swung the other way, where our parent generation was like, I don't care what I am. I have nothing wrong with me. I'm fine just the way they are, which can also kind of be like narcissistic, which is so funny. We're not supposed to diagnose, but you know what I mean? Like it's, they
Buzzword,
can,
trigger word.
I know, trigger word. So we've swung the pendulum from absolutely not having any help for mental health or any diagnosis at all to now wanting to diagnose every single thing. So we're going to now dive in and identify some of the dark sides of self-awareness. And if are in our generation or even the previous generation, it doesn't matter. But if you can relate to some of these things, you'll notice that there are lots of trends going on online where everybody is just calling themselves with names, which is the first thing that I want to talk about is like how self-awareness can become an attachment to identity, right? People have started saying, I'm anxious, I'm avoidant, I'm a detached person, I'm a people pleaser, I'm an empath. And yes, you may be all those things or one of those things or many of those things, but what you are achieving by labeling is basically you putting yourself in a box
Right.
and you're trying to gain more control and more security of the situation. You're trying to feel more safe, but the problem is you're also shrinking yourself at the same time by saying that, okay, just because I'm an empath, I can't experience this. Just because I'm a people pleaser, I can't do all those things. I can't set up boundaries. So the meaning that you attach to the labels becomes more problematic than the labels themselves.
Right. And I think that what you said is just so real, but then it also has this other thought behind it that when you learn about these things, whether it be on social media from an influencer or TikToker or whatnot, not saying that they may not understand and know those things, but not having the skills to therapize or teach or life coach or things like that, where yes, it's wonderful to know that you're those things, but also like I
Mhm.
remember in sessions with you, like even though you are those things, it doesn't define who you are. And really,
Yes. Hmm.
you're only needing to be self aware that those things are in your vocabulary or your personality trait so that you can work on them and
Hmm.
move away from them.
Hmm. 1000%. It's
Right.
it's it's so funny. It's one of the people that I know said, I'm a Gemini, so I can't keep secrets. I'm just like, hold on. You're just
No, 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 no,
what?
no, no.
It's like,
No, 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 no.
that's what I mean when I say like they make it their identity, right? And it's like, oh, I'm anxious, so that's just who and what you're doing. And I like to work with the subconscious a lot. So when you say statements like I'm anxiously attached or I am anxious, you are telling your subconscious mind that this is it.
Yeah,
This
that
is
makes
just who I
sense.
am. There is no way out of it. There's nothing else except from this. This is just the way it is. Right? So that identification almost it becomes ingrained and it becomes almost permanent in your subconscious.
But really, what we should be doing, like when we hear like the traits of let's just use the anxious attached, because I know I'm an
Hmm.
anxiously attached style. That's not
Hmm.
who I am. That's the style that
Hmm.
I lean towards because of how I was raised.
Right.
So identifying that I'm anxiously attached is great to identify that I know that I do that so that when I
Hmm.
start seeing myself
Hmm.
anxiously attached, I can be like, wait, 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 wait. How can I not anxiously attach and move towards a secure attachment style?
Exactly, because that is what happened with me. I used to be anxiously attached probably 6, 7 years ago. And then I came to secure and then I went to avoidant. And why I'm telling you the story is because nothing is permanent. Just because you have a diagnosis, just because you're anxiously attached doesn't mean you're anxiously attached for life. And that is who you are. That is just your attachment style. Also, depending on your partner at that time, they may just trigger that anxiety style or that attachment wound in you. That also doesn't mean that's who you are. So you got to be very careful when we diagnose ourselves, whether we're relating to an Instagram video or a TikTok video. When you are diagnosing yourself, you also want to say, okay, maybe what they're saying is true for me at the moment.
Right. And it's good just to know kind of like, oh, like if you want to like take like because it's hard with thoughts and emotions and things like that because it's different than like a medical diagnosis, right? So I
Right.
have thyroid issues. I
Hmm.
have
Hmm.
Hashimoto's. That doesn't make me who I am,
Hmm.
but I'm glad I know that I have it because it makes me go, "Oh, that makes sense why I get tired with,
Hmm.
this and that. That makes
Hmm.
sense why I was gaining weight here, here, and here.
Yep,
But what am I going to do about it? I know I have it. Let's move
exactly.
away from it. Let's optimize it. Let's make it the best it can be."
Right. And that's also so powerful that you said that because with physical ailments, you are able to label it because that is an actual diagnosis. Once again, based on facts, not just feelings, facts like blood work, immense blood work and testing to know that, okay, I have thyroid, my thyroid antibodies are like super high. So I have Hashimoto's and this may be going on. Again, it's coming from facts, but you're also not saying that my antibodies are because they're high right now, they're going to be high throughout.
Right.
Once again, you're even pivoting, even in that point, even though it's physical, you're still saying, what can I do the best of my abilities so that I don't have these symptoms?
Agreed. Agreed. So how would you say um how would you say to make it more of a healthy self-awareness like of it
Mm-hmm.
all? Like to still be
Mm-hmm.
able to like look at these things and be like, oh, okay, maybe I can identify with some of these traits and make it more of a
Mm-hmm.
healthy self-awareness to move toward a healthier goal versus just saying like, oh, yep, exactly what they're saying. That's me. I'm an anxiously attached person. So now the
Yep.
next time I get in a fight with my partner, I'm just
Yep.
going to tell them, well,
Yep.
I can't help it. I'm anxiously attached.
Yep, yep, yep. I think that you already answered this question, which is very powerful, which is yes, use them. That's why we have all the workbooks and we have everything. It's if it's going to help you get a sense of safety, there is nothing wrong in identifying with any of this. However, the next question you're going to ask yourself is, how can I be better? How can I improve now that I know this? Now that I know that this automatically shows up for me, maybe because of childhood wounds, maybe parental things, like whatever it is, what do I do to fix this? And what am I actively working on to actually accept this, heal from this, and fix this? Right. And again, we're going to talk about how fixing shouldn't also be an obsession. And we'll get to that when the time comes. But I think the beginning step is just saying, this pattern is showing up for me right now. That doesn't mean that this is my life and that doesn't mean it's permanent. I'm glad I have the tools and the knowledge. And what can I do to improve myself? I think that is the very first step after identifying is something that I will tell my clients to do
Yeah.
rather than using that as a crutch to be a shitty person, or to
Well,
not do the
exactly.
work.
Right. And you talked about like your subconscious hearing that. And I guess we could
Hmm.
use nervous system, subconscious kind of
Hmm.
interchangeably. So, like, if
Hmm.
your subconscious or your nervous system continues to hear you say, like, I'm an
Hmm.
anxious attached person, I'm an anxious
Hmm.
attached person, how does one then reverse that so that their nervous system doesn't get caught on that or the work that they have to do to kind of get that out of their subconscious and their nervous system?
Okay, that's a really great question. I think the first is again making it temporary. I think that's very important. It's somebody when they say, I'm fat.
Okay.
Well, you're fat now because of the way your life is and because of how you eat and because of your lack of exercise or whatever it is, right? So it's like if you're saying, I'm anxiously attached right now. And that could be a trigger either from my childhood, that could be a trigger from the current partner that I'm dating, or my husband, or my boyfriend, anybody that is. So it's a current theme that is showing me that these are the issues that I have to deal with,
Right.
right? So making it more present day analysis rather than making it a complete diagnosis. So, for example, for your subconscious, you could say, well, I'm having traits of anxious attachment that is showing up right now. You see how that feels versus I'm anxiously attached and I will be.
Right. Like, and everybody's just going to have to understand me and get over it.
Hmm. You
I mean, that would
see,
be honestly nice to say sometimes because,
yeah,
like, it would
you
be
know,
great if we could walk through life and just be like, have all these badges on our shirts. It's like, I'm anxiously attached. I'm a little narcissistic. I'm this. So just walk with caution.
yeah,
It's all y'all's problem on how I
I
react
know.
because I'm telling you on this shirt right here, these are the issues
Exactly.
I have.
Exactly, exactly. And that also comes again from over identifying, right? And I honestly, and we've talked about this in one of our episodes, it later becomes a little bit entitled.
Yeah.
It's okay, I have all these diagnoses. So I want everybody around me to walk on eggshells and cater to me because they don't have all this diagnosis and I do.
Mm-hmm.
But they have other things that they're probably not advertising. You know what I'm saying?
Right. 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 But I mean, like, also, I think sometimes maybe people, not that they wear it as a badge of honor,
Mhm.
but because that's how they've identified themselves for so long that
Yeah.
maybe it becomes a fear of letting it go because who are you
Who are
without
you?
it?
Exactly. That's a brilliant point because I think that to be in the unknown can be very scary for some people. So they're very afraid to, again, release that or heal from that and even say, I am overcoming that, or let me actually do some work to recover from that. And instead, they'll just stay there because now there's, like I said, 20 years of being anxiously attached or 15 years of being avoidant. You're just like, okay, this is it's better for me even though I'm shrinking. It's easier for me on my nervous system to be this way
Hmm.
rather than change, because if I change, who knows what else will get triggered and who knows what else I'll be.
And you're right, like you said, and you know how to deal with what you already know that you have because it's easy.
Exactly.
You have it. You know you function this
Hmm.
way for so many years. So, like you said, like
Hmm.
if that goes away, what's going to
Hmm.
be behind it?
What's
Better,
going to be
worse, indifferent? I don't know.
indifferent? Exactly. And that is scary for some people. And all I can say is I have worked with people who have done the work. And even though it is very scary and unknown is still better than putting yourself in a box. Because when you put yourself in a box, you are once again telling your subconscious mind that this is who I will be for the rest of my life. And that's very painful too, if you think about it. That's
It is.
very shrinking, you're not growing, you're not evolving, you're not expanding. It's like your life force almost dims out.
Yeah, I agree. And I liked what you said earlier because we're about to touch on it next is that
Yeah.
hyper self-awareness. And this is
Yeah.
probably the box that I fall into the most when you brought this topic up. I was like,
Mhm.
ooh, that stung. So I'm excited about this transferring into the hyper self-awareness of like, yes, we know all this stuff, but we're kind of like dabbling into the hyper self-awareness where it's like
Mhm.
we're constantly repeatedly telling ourselves this. We're constantly looking at this content online. We're constantly saying we
Mhm.
have these things.
Mhm.
So, like with the hyper self awareness, what do you say about that? Like, how would you say someone knows that they're hyperly self aware versus like they're just trying to be better as a person?
Oh, that is a huge one big sign, one very obvious elephant in the room that'll kind of give away where they're at, right? And that is when they run away from feeling their feelings. So
Okay.
think about it this way. When you get a diagnosis or when you identify as something, right, immediately intellectualizing it keeps you away from feeling the weight of it, keeps you away from feeling disappointment, keeps you away from feeling abandoned, keeps you away from, again, emotions. So
Okay.
when it's difficult for some person to hold the emotion, feel the emotion, and process the emotion, they prefer intellectualizing it and overdiagnosing
I mean, that
because
makes sense. Yeah. Because,
because it gives them a different sense of control when they do that. So it's actually connected to control and safety. But real safety, full safety, actual safety and freedom only comes after you have felt the grief and the sadness and the fear of what it is, whatever the emotion is, right? For example, I'll give you an example. Let's say, for example, I'm anxiously attached, right?
mm-hmm.
Um, I've not heard from my boyfriend in 4 hours. Okay. First, I'm thinking, okay, he's busy. And then the fourth hour kicks in. I'm spiraling. I'm like, oh my God, maybe he got into a car accident. Maybe this, maybe that. Maybe he's talking to somebody else. Maybe he's avoiding me. Da 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 da. Da. And then I'm saying, yeah, of course I'm anxiously attached. I'm going to feel this way. Now I'm Googling anxious attachment. Da, 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 da. Like, I'm like going into
Okay.
the rabbit hole. Instead, what I'm supposed to do is I have to feel my feelings,
Right.
which is
Okay.
I'm scared, I'm nervous, I'm deeply uncomfortable, and I want to fucking cry. I
That
want to
makes more
fucking
sense
cry.
because when I
Yep,
read this, when I read when you sent this and I read the hyper self-awareness, I was like,
yep,
ooh, I feel like I'm hyperly self-aware because like I will see my triggers and I
yep.
will be like, oh, now I can see it. And then I'm
Mm.
like, oh, I'm super aware of what I'm seeing now. So is
Mhm.
that different than like, so it's good to like start seeing your triggers, but like doing this, I see what you're saying where you're going down a spiraling rabbit hole versus
Yeah,
being like,
yeah, yeah.
let me stop in this moment
Yep.
and realize I'm being anxiously attached
And
and
also, what's
realize,
happening in my body? Oh,
yeah,
my heart's beating too fast. My stomach is all up in knots. Oh my
yeah.
God, this feels deeply uncomfortable. I think I just want to fucking cry. I think I just need to let out a cry or scream or something, or I need to move my body. Something is happening in my body that is so deeply unsettling that I immediately go to my mind and over intellectualize because that gives me a false sense of control.
And versus just saying, I'm going to stop these thoughts because I
There you go.
realize I'm
Hmm.
being triggered right now.
Yep. Yep.
Oh, okay. So I'm not, okay. So I do not fall into this category like I thought.
Good.
Because I was like, yes, I could spiral, but yes, I could
Yep.
see it. But then I also have to go, Jonna, you're spiraling again.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
stop.
Yeah, and instead of diagnosing and asking, why is this happening to me? There is one particular client that I worked with. She would never, never, never confront what came up for her feelings wise, any discomfort, any grief, any sadness, anything. She would just never be able to sit with it. So she'll be like, I wonder why that came from. I wonder where that came from. I think it came because my mom said this. I think this came because my dad ignored me at this point. I think this came when my sister snapped at me. It would always go to why is this happening to me rather than this is uncomfortable. Let me sit with this.
Yeah.
Let me journal about it. Let me have a good cry or a scream and move through this and just jumping to again, analyzing again. It's like going
Yeah.
to that mode again, which is giving that false sense of control.
Do you think that people who hyperfixate or who are hyper self-aware, when they're doing that introspection, do you think it disconnects themselves from their own intuition?
Yes, and their body.
Okay. So like they can't even like discern like is this truly my intuition telling me something's bad about to happen here or
Mhm.
is this just me hyperfixating on the problem and I'm making up these stories and I can't tell?
Let me tell you a fun fact about hyperfixation, or let's even go to ego, which is ego is kind of a hyperfixation thing because it's
Hmm.
coming from the mind, right? Whereas intuition comes from the body, right? So the difference is people say, oh, I have a really bad feeling about it. This is my intuition. I have had a bad feeling about it, right? When you have a strong judgment about something that is happening, it's mostly not your intuition, it's your ego.
Oh, okay.
Intuition is very random. You'll be walking and then suddenly it'll be like, boom, it'll hit you. Oh, this is what's going on. You'll be opening your fridge and then it'll hit you out of nowhere. Oh, this is what's going on. You'll be making a
Okay.
dish and then it'll pop in randomly. Intuition doesn't pop in when you're hyper fixating or obsessing about something.
Okay, I love that. Love that
Mhm.
because now that makes more
Mhm.
sense because sometimes like if you get stuck on a story and you're like this is what's going on, this is what's going on and you think it's my intuition
Mhm.
it's telling me this and then you it's kind of hard sometimes like in those moments to
It
discern but
is.
I love how you said like it's not just going to keep building and sit there and being like here I'm knocking on your door and you're not listening.
Nope.
It's like
Nope.
you're going to know.
Oh, you'll definitely know.
You're not going to question is this my intuition or not. You're going to be
No.
like, "Oh no, no, no." It's
Yeah.
kind of like, I guess, for example, like cheating, like how women
Mhm.
already know,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
then they're like, "Let me see your phone,"
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then the guy's like, "No, sorry, I shouldn't say that." Guy or girl's like,
Yeah.
"No,"
Yeah.
and then they're like, "I don't need to see it."
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
Exactly. So
Okay.
think about it this way, like when we hyperfixate on something that's fueled by our mental processing of, oh, that's happening, that's happening, that's happening, that's happening. That already disconnects us from the mind. I want you to think of mind being up here and the body being in the heart, right? So when you're over analyzing and hyperfixating, you're not in your body, you're in your mind. And the
Yeah.
mind is the ego.
So, okay, so for example, if someone does hyperfixate or, is trying to be hyper or not trying to be hyper self-aware, but is hyper self-aware and they're trying to kind of navigate this based on this podcast that we're talking about,
Mm-hmm.
and they're in like a dating relationship with someone
Mm-hmm.
and the guy's telling them not to worry about things and he's giving them no reason not to trust them and all these other things, but the girl has that anxious attachment and
Mm-hmm.
they're telling them those stories and looping and saying, oh no, he's cheating, he's doing all these things or whatever. Is it
Mm-hmm.
the other person's responsibility to calm those thoughts by giving a conversation, or is it the other person's responsibility to say, I'm hyperfixating again, I have to calm this down? Does that make
Okay,
sense what
so
I'm
that's a
asking?
really, yeah, yeah, yeah. So I think the first question I would ask this person who's spiraling is if they have done any work to heal from the past relationships. Because the reason that they're spiraling is showing me once again that they are not safe in their bodies, right? They have not let go of certain things that have happened in the previous relationships. So when a pattern that is a little bit similar happens, it goes into spiral. So
Yeah.
for the person that's spiraling, that would be the first question I ask, which is you're hyperfixating. So did you already do the work from previous triggers of what has shown in this pattern, right? And if they say no, then that's on the person who is spiraling to actually do the work so that they feel safe in the body.
Okay.
Number two, if they have done the work, if they have processed and they're still hyperfixating, then it could probably be your intuition led you to hyperfixate. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
Yeah. So what if that same scenario, let's say that it's a married couple,
Mm-hmm.
they got divorced
Mm-hmm.
and they didn't really like work through the problems before they divorced, but when they got back
Mm-hmm.
together, both of them had worked, I guess, individually on their issues and they're both
Mm-hmm.
showing up differently and they're showing that they're changing and things like that, but
Mm-hmm.
those triggers still come up from their previous past relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say it's still then the other person's responsibility, or they need to go like how then if it's the same person?
So are you asking about the person that's being triggered, the new person, or are you asking about the person that's already been married?
No, no, no. I'm saying like you have a married couple.
Yeah.
They have all these let's say you have a married couple and one of them cheats. Okay, so they
Mm-hmm.
get divorced,
Mm-hmm.
but they reconcile a few
Mm-hmm.
years later, same married couple.
Mm-hmm.
They worked on themselves individually in therapy,
Mm-hmm.
but they never really fixed or talked about that
Mm-hmm.
previous incident of cheating. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say that now they're back together, they've reconciled, and now that overly anxious person is like, oh, I bet they're cheating again. I bet they're cheating again.
Mm-hmm.
But it's because in the first example, it was like, well, have they fixed their previous past? Well, what if the past is that same person?
Oh, that I mean, it's like you're walking through fire again, right? I mean, it's a terrible idea. I would always say to like get together with your ex because ex is an ex for a reason. But that just means that you have to be willing to walk through fire and trust if you want to give that a shot.
Right. And so, but in that same scenario, would you say like it's both their responsibilities to make the other one feel comfortable because of the past? Or would they
Yeah,
have
absolutely.
versus
Absolutely.
versus like one of them, like if one of them is anxious, then to
Yeah.
say, well, you got to work on your anxiety or something like that.
I think if one person is anxious, this is the thing. If two people are self-aware, one person knows they're anxious, one person knows they're secure. When you are in a relationship and you're aware of these patterns, it's always good to be aware to meet each other halfway.
Right.
Right. So if a secure person who loves their partner is with an anxious person, then you know that your partner normally tends to the anxiety style. So you can let them know when you're going to come home. You can send them a text when you're on the way. You can send them a text when they're delaying. Like there is a way to like meet each other halfway rather than completely coddling each other, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Or completely coddling or completely dismissing the other
Completely
person's feelings. Yeah.
dismissing. Yeah, because you don't do that either in relationships. You work together. You don't say, oh, I don't care that this is who you are, or I don't care that this is your trauma.
Right. And it's funny that we're talking about social media influencers. Like I actually like before this, like whenever you talk about something, your phone picks it up. I have now all this content on my TikTok, and this guy was
Hmm.
like, if you know your partner is an overthinker or an anxious person, like
Yep.
what does it hurt to
Hmm.
just do a little extra? It doesn't hurt you to do that to
Yeah.
make them feel secure.
Yeah. Yeah.
But and I've never understood that. It doesn't take any extra to just make them feel secure. But like some men that I've had friends do this or people in
Hmm.
relationships do this, where they're
Hmm.
like, I'm not doing that. Like they need to
Hmm.
get over it. They need to stop being so anxious. And I'm like,
Hmm.
but what does that say about the other person?
Yeah. I mean,
You
that
know?
shows that you're not willing to accept it. It's that shows you're not willing to accept certain baggages that the other person has.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And it's very actually very insensitive, is what I'll say. I mean,
A
I
thousand
think it could
percent.
also they could also be saying that because they want to avoid coddling them. I get the intention in which they would not want to do that at all because they're worried that if they send this one message, then it'll be a continuous thing that they have to keep doing. Does that make
Right.
sense?
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean I get it too. Like I know I think it's both, right? Like there should be a balance. Like the anxious person is going to have to obviously work on their triggers and
Hmm.
work on themselves just like we're talking about like stop hyperfixating, stop
Right.
stop being like, "Oh, I'm so self-aware. I have this attachment style
Hmm.
and that's all." No, that's not where
Hmm.
you stop. You work on it, but the other person
Right.
also has to kind of give a little bit and say,
Yeah.
while you work on it,
Right.
we're going to have a compromise on what I'm willing to do and what I'm not. Here's my boundaries.
Right. And also think about it this way, at the risk of not diagnosing. If a person is saying, I absolutely don't want to do that, they could also be very dismissive avoidant.
True, 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 true. True.
Because if you're actually secure, what would hurt you so much by letting me know when you'll be home or by letting me know where, like, what is so painful about a 2 second, 5 second message?
Right. I agree. I agree. 1000%.
Yeah.
Would you say that being super hyper self-aware is the same as when people are intellectualizing their emotions? Or
Yes.
is the same?
Very, very similar. Very
Okay.
similar. Because again, remember the mind and the body disconnection. When it's in the mind and it's a continuous loop in the mind, whether that's over intellectualization or hyper fixating on hyper awareness or whatever, it's happening in the mind, which means you're disconnected from the body.
And a lot of times very highly intellectual people typically do hyperfixate
They do.
because they're logical, they're
Yeah.
aware, so
Mm-hmm.
they tend to overthink and they
Mm-hmm.
kind of know the situation.
Yeah.
So how would you say like if someone is like super highly articulate, how
Mm-hmm.
how are those people who are so articulate, logical, smart get stuck in their emotions when they're smart? They know that they're in their emotions.
I just feel like we are not taught how to regulate. We are not taught tools, right? So, for example, a simple example would be when a child is crying and a parent comes in and says, Stop crying, right? That's now you're telling the child feeling your feelings is a bad thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then let's say in another situation, a child is crying and the parent doesn't say, like the healthy response, let me tell you what the healthy response will be like, I see that you're crying. It's okay to feel your feelings. When you're done feeling your feelings, you can let mommy know how you're feeling or what comes up for you. Now, that's a healthy response.
Mm-hmm.
Ignoring them is bad, right?
Creates
Immediately
anxiety.
coddling them is bad, and then immediately disrupting them is bad. So, any of these things can lead to you not knowing how to regulate your feelings, right? So you can be the most intelligent person, the most logical person, you can analyze everything, but that doesn't mean you have actually gotten in touch with your body and
Or your
released the
subconscious, yeah.
stored trauma, which is why they say the trauma lives in the body. The body keeps the score.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the mind, it's the body. Because if you haven't actually processed it, the story still lives in the body. So no amount of, um, oh, I'm a narcissist, oh, I have BPD, I have this, can actually heal what the body is holding on to unless you're really willing to like feel your feelings.
Right. And it's funny. So like you gave an example where someone's crying and then the parent can come in like see that. What about an example? Like I actually talked about this in therapy today. So like I had a memory of my mom having to work 3 jobs. Like there was nothing she
Mhm.
could do about that. And I had a
Mm.
memory where she was going back to work or something and I was being left with either my aunt or a babysitter, I can't remember,
Mhm.
and I was just crying like I want my
Mm.
mom to be here.
Mhm.
And I think that's we were kind of getting like where did this anxiety and anxious attachment start? And I
Mhm.
was like, but that's not something she can, it's not like she was leaving to go to the club every night. Like
Right.
she was going to work to make ends meet. So like
Right.
there's things that parents can't control and
Yeah.
obviously things can happen. So how
Mhm.
do you process that type of emotion and anxiety? Because my mom always came home.
Yeah, and I think that has a lot to do with like acceptance and forgiveness, right? Because it's not that she did something wrong,
Mhm.
it's just that she was not able to cater to your needs at that time when you needed them. It's just terrible timing,
Right.
right? When you needed it, she couldn't give that to you. When you
Right.
needed it desperately, it wasn't there. So because of that, that started, but
Yeah.
you can't entirely blame her because again, she didn't know better. That's what
Right.
she had to do. So
Right.
again, it comes with, can I give myself grace and my mom grace for doing the best that she knew at that time?
But like I've noticed like my triggers like in adulthood, like when people can't give me emotionally what I need at that moment, like it's a, that's when I notice it now and I'm just starting to connect that. And I'm
Yeah.
like, so when we talk about like our body keeps a score, like I don't know how you heal something that somebody couldn't control.
Yeah.
Like it's different than if your parents come in and they're screaming at you, crying, and you're like, oh, that's why I don't handle emotions well because I
Hmm.
was told not to have emotions.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? How the difference there is?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I totally get it. I still feel that you can't connect everything. Again, this is also where again
I'm
intellectualizing
doing
can
it
come
again.
in. You're doing it again, and I feel like that's a good story that helped you understand why.
Okay.
Now it's time to drop the story
Okay.
and come back to your body.
Okay.
And what am I feeling right now? I'm feeling frustrated that my friend is not able to give me the emotional attention that I need.
Okay.
Can I be with the frustration?
Gotcha.
Can I journal through the frustration? Can I tap it out? Can I breathe through it? Can I cry through this frustration instead of trying to go and fix the past or trying to heal the past or make sense of the past? You see that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
That's also hyper fixating instead of actually healing.
Okay, so we're going back to I am in that box.
Yes.
I was in it, I was out of it, now I'm back in the box.
Yes,
Got it.
yes,
Okay.
yes,
Cool, 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 cool. God, we got a good example there. All
yes.
right. So how can healing like become another form of someone trying to be perfect, perfectionism? Because we
Hmm.
do, that's I'm, type A personality and you just want everything to be perfect. So how can, trying to heal all the time make you not heal your perfectionism or not heal your, does that make sense?
I think you have to, and when I say you, I'm saying this to all perfectionists that are listening to this. I think you have to come to terms with the fact that healing is an everlasting journey. A,
Yes.
so you're never going to be healed. It is never going to feel good enough. So when you come to terms with the fact that I'm never going to be quote unquote healed and it's never going to feel complete or good enough, then you can embrace that, okay, this is something that I do intermittently as things come up. Now, as things come up and as I do this, can I just choose to show up in the best of my abilities? Instead of intellectualizing, instead of labeling, can I make it more of a habit to sit with myself, for it to be in my body without trying to understand why or trying to fix it?
Okay.
Don't try to fix it, just sit with it.
Okay. And then all that makes sense. But if someone is like a perfectionist and then they're trying to like research all the stuff and they hyperfixate on it, how do
Mhm.
they not make it, since healing is never really an ending journey, like it's a
Mhm.
lifelong journey, how do they not make that a never ending self improvement project?
I think you have to understand that it will be a never-ending self-improvement project, and there is nothing wrong with that. So again, you have to ask yourself, is this project ruining me or is this project serving me? For example, for me, I'm a very growth oriented person. So I don't feel like I'm actually done. I don't feel like I'm actually healed. I just know that in different seasons, there are different demands that's going to be asked of me to heal at a different capacity. But if I were a person that's like, it's not enough, it's not enough, I'm not enough, I'm not enough, I'm not
Hyperfixating,
enough.
intellectualizing. Yeah.
Yeah, if I'm a person that actually does these things, it's time to step away, from everything. Stop the journaling, stop everything, stop the therapy, step away from everything, and just don't do anything for a few days and zoom out and look at your life as to how much you've grown in the last 5 years. How much have you grown in the last 1 year? How much have you grown in the last 3 years? Because what's happening is you're getting caught up in the details of every day and what you're doing and the nitty gritties of it not being enough, that you're actually not able to see the big picture.
That makes sense. That
So
makes a
you
lot of
need to
sense.
actually stop everything and detach and zoom out and be like, oh, okay, I was just being ungrateful that I have come so far. I was just not willing to acknowledge that these things have actually happened and I have made progress. I was just not willing to do that. I was just in the rat race.
Yeah.
And that's a very like nervous system dysregulation. It's
Mm-hmm.
almost being unwilling to again sit with yourself. And it's saying, instead of sitting with myself, I'm just going to do more.
Yeah.
I'm just going to focus more and fixate more and try to find another problem when there is none.
That makes sense. Because like you get more comfortable in fixing versus
Mhm.
just being like, oh, I'm actually good for now.
Yeah.
That makes
Yeah.
sense.
I'm actually good for now, and maybe for today, this is enough. Maybe I'll start looking at other things that are good today. Oh, the sun is shining bright. Oh, two of my friends reached out today. Oh, I had a favorite meal today that I really enjoyed. I was able to spend some time with my dog or my cat. Start pivoting from that because, again, that's also a form of hyperfixating, right? So it's like come out of I need to heal everything right now to, okay, I've done enough healing in these many years and in these many hours. I'm coming out and I'm looking at things differently. I'm focusing on other things. Because remember, what we focus on expands. So
Yeah.
if we focus on lack, this is not enough, this is not enough, this is not enough, it's the universe is going to give you more evidence that no matter what you do, it's not enough.
No, I like that. And also, like, even I guess outside of you, it would be anybody else too. Like, if we're focusing on like what someone else isn't doing instead of
Mhm.
focusing on what they are doing for us, we're just going to keep focusing on that lack
Oh,
versus what they are.
1000%,
Yeah.
1000%. Absolutely. I have some really close friends, some best friends that show up in a way that I want. There are some people that don't show up in a way that I really want, but they have other things that they bring to the table,
Yeah.
right? So I can either focus on what they don't give me, or I can focus on what they do give me.
Yeah. I like that. I like that a
And
lot.
when I do focus on what they give me, that expands and holds capacity for more that they can give me.
True. True,
I
true,
don't know
true.
if you know this, but it's like you can't have it all. I mean, no, you can have it all, but you can't have it all at the same time.
Yeah.
That's really powerful.
Yeah. Because I do have this friend where like we talk about kind of this similar situation where
Hmm.
um we butt heads a lot because we're total opposites. And I'll be
Hmm.
like, well, you're not doing this, but I appreciate what you do. And I try to like not criticize or make them feel poorly about. But now that we're having this conversation, because he would always be like, no, you are criticizing me all the time. It's this
Hmm.
long laundry list of things that I'm not doing. And I'd be like,
Hmm.
no, that's not what I'm doing. I'm just trying to share my emotion. But now that you're putting it in this perspective, I'm like, ooh, maybe I owe them an apology
Hmm. Hmm.
because I never had this thought process of like just because I'm saying I'm lacking this that
Yeah,
I'm focusing so much on it versus like I do see the good but I'm not focusing on it.
yeah, absolutely. And remember, what you focus on is what takes the driver's seat in your life.
Now that makes sense. So I guess I'm going to apologize to my friend. Do you think that like having all this self-awareness and all the things that we're doing can kill authenticity in people?
Absolutely, because people are just who they are, right? I'll give you an example. My father is naturally very humorous. He's very open and straightforward. He has zero chill and zero filter, right? And if he were to label himself as, oh, I'm narcissistic because I'm only talking about myself, or if he were to label himself as, oh, I have this great sense of humor, so I always have to uphold this conversation with humor. Like if he were to do that, he's not present.
Right.
He's not just showing up and cracking a joke
That
or
makes
making fun
sense.
of or making fun of his friend, right? That's authenticity, right? And it does kill authenticity because again, you're now focused on who should I be so that I diagnose myself or society gives me a label versus can I just show up as to what's coming up right now?
No, yeah. That I'm trying to like word the question that I want to have because that makes completely sense.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because like I like how you said that about your dad and stuff because I used to do that and I know you know that in our sessions. Like I used to do that in like friendships and stuff. I'd be like, oh, I'm to this or I'm to that or I'm to this and like couldn't just be a person. I would always constantly be mad at my personality because somebody didn't like it or somebody didn't do this or somebody pointed out the negative aspects of it when there were so many other positives about it that
Yeah.
I genuinely liked about it. But
Mm-hmm.
whether that be, for example, I'm too loud sometimes. Like
Mm-hmm.
I get super loud and people like I
Mm-hmm.
had friends in college that would be like, gosh, you're just so loud. And I'd be like, oh, okay. Oh, I'm sorry. You know, like and then
Mm-hmm.
becoming super hyper aware of how loud I was being like kind of killed the vibe for me.
Yeah.
And then I would
Because
have to
you couldn't
constantly
show up as
monitor.
yourself.
And I
You
would have to
couldn't show up as
constantly
yourself.
monitor it because usually when
Yeah.
I'm getting louder, it's like I'm excited about something
Yeah.
or, that's just, I'm just a loud person and I get super
Yeah.
excited and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
So I like how this is always therapy with you and me when we do a podcast because it's like, I'm over here sitting like, oh, yeah, 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 yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm getting something out of it, I know these listeners are for
Yeah.
sure.
No,
Uh,
I'm telling you, and it does kill it because once again, you're in that mode of the mind rather than being in the body and just enjoying someone's company for whatever it is. I have this friend, and God, I hope she's not listening to this. It's her entire personality is complaining about her work.
yeah,
That's her personality.
that
That's
used to be
just
mine. Yeah,
and that's her personality. And we were joking about it. And I've made jokes to her about it. It's not that I'm talking shit behind her back. I've told this to her on her face that, oh my God, you're always complaining about work. But it's not a complaint, it's a joke. I'm making
right.
fun of her and she laughs about it and she'll still complain tomorrow.
Yeah,
It's just her way of getting things out. It's just her way of talking.
yeah,
She's very fast when she talks. She doesn't process that much when she fasts. And she's just like, getting all the information out at one time, and maybe she has ADD, whatever it is, but it's not a problem to be fixed. Sometimes you just have to
accept it. Yeah,
accept a person for who they are instead of trying to diagnose or fix just because you are uncomfortable with that. And it's again
or
asking
somebody's pointed out that they're uncomfortable with it. So then it makes you
yeah,
uncomfortable with it. And now we got to fix it and
exactly,
we got to diagnose it and we got to figure out why we're
exactly.
like this.
Exactly. And this is why I love, this is why I love the word boundary for certain reasons. And I also hate it for certain reasons because I feel like people use it as a crutch when there is an ounce of discomfort.
Yeah,
Any discomfort, they'll be like, oh, but that's my boundary and I don't want you to do that. And that's my boundary and I don't want you to talk about that. That's my boundary. I don't want you to be too loud. That's you're uncomfortable, so regulate yourself with your discomfort because you're asking a fish to climb a tree. You would never do that with animals. We never do that with animals. We
no,
won't
we
ask
don't.
a tiger to be a rat or a rat to be a bird. We don't do that. But somehow with human beings, yes, these titles and these diagnoses are good and they give us self-validation and tools. But too much of this can also, once again, not learn to see the differences and appreciate that we are different. Everybody
Agreed.
is so different.
Have one more question for you.
Yeah.
How do you know when you've moved from surviving into truly living and thriving?
I think surviving would be reading every book that is out there about what you could be, taking every personality test every week to find out what you are, never ending the journey, going to multiple therapy sessions a week, never feeling like I'm good enough, like I'm enough right here. I've done so much work, this is enough. And just not being happy, just not being content, right? Not being content, not being present. I think happy is exaggerated. Let me just say present, not being present and not being content. That to me is survival, right?
Yeah,
Actually living your life means you're going out, you're eating, you're working out, you're moving your body, you're catering to your needs. You have a community of people. You show up just how you are. They show up just they are.
yeah,
And nobody's perfect. And understanding that you're not perfect, they're not perfect, and we still coexist and we acknowledge each other's differences and we learn and grow. Now that is genuinely a person being here and present and growing and happy, rather than you see none of these things and just hyper fixating and going into that state where I'm not good enough and I have to keep working on myself in a negative way, not in a positive way.
Right. No, I agree. And like the more I am starting to like lean into faith more and like read and stuff, like going down that track, and I have been very hyperfixating and
Mhm.
intellectualizing a lot of things in my past. Still do. I'm not out of it yet. I'm trying to work on it, especially after this
Mhm.
podcast. But something I heard someone say, like, you can't have faith and fear in the same heart because if
Mhm.
you truly have faith, then you can't fear. So you really shouldn't
Yeah.
fear if someone
Mhm.
doesn't like your personality or doesn't
Mhm.
like something that you quote unquote need to work on. And so, like,
Mhm.
the more, like, in everything in the right timing, right? This podcast today, I needed
Mhm.
it. Like, I
Yeah.
needed it more than I even realized. Like, I knew we were doing it. I was like, oh, I'm so
Mhm.
excited about it. But then after, like,
Mhm.
actually sitting here talking, I was like, oh, that was the perfect timing that I needed that in my life.
Mhm.
And so, like, the more we can stop trying to control, even control who we are, even control our emotions, like,
Yeah.
obviously, if you got some bad stuff that
Yeah.
you need to work
Yeah.
through it.
Yeah.
But we're
Yeah.
talking
Yeah.
about like when it's like, you're just chill, you're cool, but now the
Yeah.
world's telling you, fix
Yeah.
more, do
Yeah.
this, do that.
Yeah.
So that's what I
Because
was.
also remember when somebody constantly tells you that you have something to fix, they're actually projecting something in their reality.
Mm-hmm.
So they're probably in the journey of constantly fixing themselves, and that's what's reflecting. They're in the journey of not accepting who they are, so they can't accept anybody around them.
Agreed.
And I actually know somebody like that who continuously finds faults with everybody that they interact with because they are not happy with themselves. So it's always a mirror, it's always a projection. So you always also want to like watch that, right? If somebody's calling you out all the time, you also want to be like, are they happy with themselves? Are they
Right.
content? Or are they calling themselves out too? And that's their external projection.
And something like we've all got to learn as humans is like we all obviously we try to be people pleasers and we want people to like us, but at the end of the day, the people who accept your faults, your flaws, all these things
Mhm.
about you, they truly want to be in your life.
Oh
And they
yeah,
will like
1000%.
not saying that they're going to be okay with how you speak or things like that, but like they're still going to genuinely be like, okay,
Yeah,
let's talk through this. Where can we
yeah,
compromise? Where can we do these things to be in
yeah,
your life? So I think that we have to stop fearing losing people in
yeah.
our lives because,
We should definitely stop fearing losing people
yeah,
because when we morph ourselves too much to retain them, then we're living an inauthentic life.
agreed.
Please them.
But no, I
Yeah.
loved this so much. There's so much more
Yeah.
on these questions that I have for you, but I know we try to cap it in an hour, so we're gonna
Yeah.
have to do a part two. That's just what's gonna have to
Yes,
happen.
we'll definitely do. There is so much to dive into this journey of self-awareness, how it can be useful, where it's not useful, how it shows where you're avoiding the actual healing and things like that. So there is definitely more to talk about it because we're in that era of social media where everybody and everybody's dad is a narcissist or has borderline personality disorder. So let's stop diagnosing, guys. Let's start healing. Let's start coming into our bodies. Let's start sitting with the discomfort instead of pointing fingers at other people. It's not their job to constantly fix your triggers. If it's showing up for you, it's your job to look at it, check it out, and see what's going on. That's it. On
And
that
that's it.
note, we will be back for part two. Thank you so much for tuning in.
All right, guys, until next time, bye.